There are rectangular tables and round tables on a ship. This ship carries 22 people. The name of it is the River Ventura. And one day we sat at a round table with Ray and his wife Alma, with John and with Sue, and Anthony and I, 6 at the table. One of the guys at the table, Ray, found out from the beginning that I was a preacher type. This often changes people's ways of relating. He decided that he needed to let us know, and so he did. He said, I am a Buddhist, mostly, turned off to religion generally, and turned off to Christianity specifically and specially. I said, hey, Ray, my name's Keith. We sat at the table with them several times. And if you would ask Ray what the problem was, he would tell you. And the problem was one that you've heard before. And it's one that relates to us. Why is it that they act one way in church and another way outside of church? It's the biggie. It's the one we all deal with all the time. Because we're not here to play religious games or to have a sweet little moment. We're here to be transformed, to be changed, to be caught up in the presence and power and work of the living God. And what that means, and this will be a very simple sermon, and just a couple of things. It means taking off. Some stuff needs to be taken off and out of our lives. It's very specific, bitterness and wrath and rage and hanging on to something. You realize that sometimes people have broken relations and folks don't even know what or why, because nobody ever cared enough to try to see if there wasn't something that could be done to fix it. Sometimes we need to take off that whole sense of bitterness that's been consuming us for the longest time. Something happened a long time ago. You've had to put up with me for so long that you hear stuff again. But every time I talk about holding on to something for a long time, I remember the lady who said her husband cheated on her 38 years ago. And she's been angry with him ever since. And I said, are you still together? She said, of course. But I'm still bitter. I'm still angry, you know. You know what the scripture is saying? You're not going to change his behavior. He's still controlling yours. His shortcoming, you know. We need to take off that kind of stuff. I remember when I was out in the front of Bay High School at Bay St. Louis playing touch football. One of the wonderful things that day was I actually caught the ball when it was thrown to me. That was rare. And then one of the guys, I had thrown him, he was in a beautiful place for us to make a touchdown. I'd thrown the ball to him, and he missed the ball. And so I said, excuse me, young people, well, damn. And we went on playing game. After the game was over, a little 11-year-old boy came up to me and said, Keith. I said, yeah, 11 years old. Yes, sir. He said, did you say a bad word? I said, yeah. He said, well, shame on you. You know, you think people aren't watching? You think people aren't listening? I'm not saying that you have to go around on tippy-toe trying to be purer than everybody else. I mean, that turns people off, and it's not even God's way. But I am saying we ought to pay attention. We ought to pay attention to the way we behave. We ought to pay attention to the way we do. We really ought to. That's necessary because God's not far away. And because your witness is right there, right then. I was sharing this with my Sunday school. We had breakfast at a little Jewish restaurant in Paris. They have suffered in their economy since the bombing because the bombers are looking for Jews and others. Sad world. And so we did what we often do. We cleaned up our little table, and Anthony put everything on the tray and took it inside, and the guy looked at us like, I've never seen that happen before from an American. Don't you see, it's not the big theological discussion. It's a simple act of cleaning the table and putting something on a tray to take it to help somebody that needs maybe a little new vision of what we're like as Americans. We found people there loving warm, and kind. People told us it wouldn't be that way. And you know what somebody on the ship said? That's because you went there being warm and loving and kind. And talking about taking off, it means sometimes giving something that's important of yourself to someone else. We stood at Omaha Beach. Bruce sent a text and said to Anthony, please bring me just a scoop of sand from Omaha Beach. A little man on our ship's named Bud Coons. His wife's name's Beth. Bud Coons was the only veteran that had been there that day. When we got on the bus and put our little communicators on, stick it over your ear, turn it on, the guide said, now turn to 707. Granddaddy Earl's favorite song from our hymnal. You can look at it if you don't know about it. Because he'd been there too. He'd been there. And then Bud, after Anthony and I get through adjusting to this, takes the little wreath. Here's the scene. There is an amphitheater in a semicircle. And in the middle of it is a youth, a magnificent statue of a naked youth with the waves around his feet. And they said it's the symbol of coming out of disaster and still being resilient, still being strong. And Mr. Coons walks up the steps and gently puts the wreath at the foot of the little statue. And then all of a sudden, the chimes begin to play the Star-Spangled Banner. And the place is filled with folks. And one voice here and then another there. And then all of us singing the Star-Spangled Banner. 4,000 miles away, looking out over the graves of 10,000 22-year-old or younger American men and women. 2 women. The stats change. Some say 91 Jews. Some stats say 147. But there are crosses of marble. And marble are stars of David. And as we were walking out, I saw something that helped me. War is a tough one for me. It said, it was a marble thing, it said, it was a letter from one of the soldiers. We did not come here to conquer. We came here for a cause. And the cause for which we came was the cause of freedom. And not even for people that we knew, but for people who needed us to come. And I thought to myself, wow, to represent a cause that is virtuous, that's a good thing. So here's the first part. Take it off, throw it away, whatever it is that's hampering, that's keeping you held back, held down, that doesn't allow you to grow and progress the way you want to. And then put on the good stuff. Tenderheartedness, forgiving one another as Christ forgave us. You know, sometimes we want to forgive those. We've talked about it. Let me tell you who we want to forgive. The people who didn't hurt us much. Or the people who didn't hurt us at all. But sometimes we don't want to forgive the people that we know hurt us, and we assume at least it was willful. Maybe it was, and maybe it wasn't, but that there is a need for forgiveness. But you know what? You and I are only going to be as healthy and as strong as we are able to receive forgiveness. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That includes me, and maybe you. And then give away what you've received. And sort of practice that, but in a sense of tender-heartedness, kindness with one another, preferring one another in love. We do stupid stuff. I'm sure you do simple stuff, like putting money on the pillars of the room of the ship or the hotel. Why? Because the little people that work on board those things don't make much. And we don't know, and at the end of it, at the trip I wrote, I put some bucks on there, and some euros, and wrote on there, have a good life. I'll never see that person again. That person will never see me again. Probably. But what you could do is say, I want to do a little something nice. I want to do a little something tender. And each one of us can find a way to do that. Think of a way to do that. Try to reach out. Try to reach to some of those people that maybe you've harmed or you're injured, and you can't fix it, but you can keep on trying. That makes you the stronger in spirit and in truth. And it's so very, very significant. So tenderness, that doesn't mean weakness at all. Tenderness is the greatest strength in the world. When you have an evil, ugly world that wants to do you harm, and you respond with tenderness. One of the guys that we were with had somebody just walk up to him on the street. And, it was Ray. And wanted to fight with him. Didn't know if he was an American or a Frenchman or whomever. And Ray said he was just the kind of person that lives for conflict. And I'm the kind of person that lives for peace. And I thought to myself, hey, Keith, what kind of person are you? You walking around living for a fight? And I want to tell you, no, that's not me. I don't like to run away from it, but I'm not looking for that. I want to look for peace. But it's not peace without purpose, and it's not peace without some kind of philosophy. Our legislature is passing some laws. God help us. Are we trying to deal with stuff that's for the common and general good? Or are we trying to extend prejudice and the way we used to be and the way we used to think? What are we really about as a people? As leaders and all. We've got a lot to do. I'm done except for this. You could sort of take it and run with it however it goes. There was a guy that we noted from the beginning that was overweight. He was very overweight. And this is not to make judgment at all. It's just that it hampered his movement. And we were kind of worried about him because cobblestone streets all over the place. In the hotel we stayed in the last day, it had a vicious bathtub. You know what a vicious bathtub is? A bathtub that's about this tall, right from here to the floor. See that? It's about, what would you say, son, 4 feet? 4 feet. Can't get in the darn thing, can't get out of it once you're in, And we were both saying, we were thinking about this guy. How's he gonna bathe? I know that's dumb, but we were. Well, but we didn't know him. We just saw him. He was at the other table and all. And so now we're going to go up on the choo-choo. That's what they call it. It's a little tourist train. You all have probably seen those things. 3 trains, 3 cars and a little engine, and pulls you up. And we get to the top of this mountain. What's the name of it? You remember it? Montmartre. Mount Montmartre. And there's a magnificent church back there that was built a long time ago to remember the revolution, the French Revolution, where they sent people to help us become America. Anyway, and then on the other side of it is Paris. Unbelievable. I swear, I never saw anything like it. I couldn't believe it. You stand there, and as far as you can see, city, everywhere, tall, short, long. You just almost have to say, wow. That kind of stuff. Anyway, we're on our way up there, and we're about to get on the train. And here comes our friend, Russell, the heavy guy. And he's going to sit with us. And so we're on the front pew, and a little red thing, a little red vinyl pad with 3 places to sit, Anthony, me. And Russell tries to get up and can't get up. And we don't want to embarrass him. What do we do? And he's grunting and he's moaning. He keeps on trying to get up. So we say, can we help you? No, I'll get it. So he tries it, doesn't get it. So I said, well, there's a little step down there. I said, I think you can pull it out. So he pulled it out, moaned, groaned, couldn't get it. So Anthony gave him an arm, tried, didn't get it. And then we both gave him an arm, and finally he came up. And he sat down. And he said, man, didn't think I was going to get up at all. Then he said, heard you were from Mississippi. I said, sir? Heard you from Mississippi. I said, yeah. He said, me too. He said, I'm from Ocean Springs. I said, well, good. I said, my mom and dad had a house down at Gulfport, and we still go down there from time to time. It's kind of now our family home. Well, that's good. He said, where you go to school? I said, which school? He said, college. I said, Millsaps? He said, Millsaps College in Jackson, Mississippi? I said, yep. He said, when? I said, 1954, 1958. Why? He said, because that's when I went to Millsaps College. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, what's your name? I said, you already know. And he said, no. He said, I just know you're from Jackson, and I just wondered. I said, well, my name's Keith Tonkel. And he said, Keith Tonkel. He said, really? I said, well, as far as I know. And he said, Keith, put his hand on me. I'm Russell Thompson. I was in your dormitory at Millsaps, and one of the guys that you wrote about in your first book. He said, just check me out by reading your own book. And then he said, small world, isn't it? Mount Montmartre in Paris. And a world united because we have the opportunity to take off the bad stuff and put on the good stuff and keep on working the good stuff until good finally reigns over evil. Oh, God, make it so. Amen.